Hello and welcome to FinTech Talk. I'm your host, Charles Orton-Jones. Today we're looking at one of the most abused words in FinTech, hyper-personalization. It gets uttered a lot, but very few banks do it well, and most don't even try. What is hyper-personalization? Why does it appear in every FinTech report, and why does no one make a success out of it? Well, to find out, we've done what we always do. We've scoured the globe for the world's leading experts on this subject. So I'd like to introduce you to our panelists, and we will debate what is hyper-personalization, why does everyone get it so badly wrong, and how can you really deliver on this? So David Gyuri, if you want to turn your camera on, David is one of our favorite guests on FinTech Talk. He's one of the best known faces in FinTech in Europe. He's the founder and CEO of Banking Reports London. He trains FinTech and banking executives. He's contributed to 5 different books. He's been shortlisted for all sorts of awards. I'm seeing top 10 global thought leader and influencer, top 10 global payments leader. He's got a phenomenal CV. David, great to have you with us again.
Great to be here, and thank you for this personalized, so to speak, hyper-personalized introduction.
That's a good start. And we have someone new on FinTech Talk for us, Dr. Emmanuel Magnonganese, who is the Customer Experience Strategy Advisor for Bank Al Bilad. The bank is based in Saudi Arabia. It's a Sharia-compliant bank founded in 2004, more than 2,300 employees. It's a really innovative institution, and this is a special subject really for Emmanuel. So, Dr. Emmanuel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Charles. I'm excited to be talking about hyper-personalization. It's a subject which is near and dear to my heart, so looking forward to the conversation.
Fabuloso. Okay, well, we normally start with a news item, whether our producer Blendina can flash it up. I mean, this is just one of any news item we could have taken, because if you read about fintech or banking, this word gets bandied around a lot. This is Fast Company writing about how consumers are demanding hyper-personalization. And just to summarize this in a nutshell, consumers are used to seeing personalized offers, whether they're using Netflix or Amazon, and then they work with their bank and just get standard products shoved in their face. Why is this the case? I mean, but let's start off with the meat of it. David, perhaps you give us a definition. Hyper-personalization. I mean, personalization, hyper, what are we talking about? What does it actually mean?
Yes. So basically, hyper-personalization refers to micro-segmentations, very small segments, up to the segment of 1. And that is the essence of hyper-personalization, treating each and every customer as a separate, individualized segment. That is hyper-personalization, and it's very hard to reach, because in the essence, in the depth, in the root of the problem is data. How to handle data. And that is a $1 trillion question in international banking around the world as of now. How to get data right.
It's data, it's marketing, and it's technology. And where are we on the adoption curve? Emmanuel, I mean, we've all seen occasional offers, but where do you think we are on this? I mean, it feels very early stage. I mean, you've got the good knowledge of the sort of Saudi Middle Eastern market. Can you see anyone doing this particularly well, or are we really at the very genesis of this movement?
Very much so at the beginning. So if I would put a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most hyper-personalized experience and 1 being the basic experience, then I would say maybe we're still between 2 and 3. And just to add to what David said about hyper-personalization on the definition part of it, I would also like to include the context and the current situation. So it's not just the characteristics of a person or their preferences, but even their situation at that specific time. So in banking, as David said, it's not very easy to do. And most banks are still very far away to be offering hyper-personalized experiences. So you will find that quite a few are trying to do the basic personalization, where they add a name or just acknowledging that you are there. And then you get a few who are also personalizing products and offers, which is great. But as David said, or as I will say, it's more than just products and offers. It could go to support, it go to content as well, which all of these can be hyper personalized.
Why is it so hard? I mean, banks have the data. They can see what people are buying. They can see their credit scores. They can even see their life milestones appearing. If someone starts buying pregnancy products, and you know they're going to have a baby. If they're buying lots of furniture, maybe they're going to move house. So, Emmanuel, why is this so difficult? Is it a data problem, a technology problem, or is it a marketing problem that people just haven't applied their brains to actually doing it well?
So as you rightly said, the data is there. So we actually know a lot about customers. Sometimes someone even said we know more about customers than they do about themselves. So data is actually there. The challenge we have is silos. So you have silos in the data, silos in the technology, and silos in the functions itself. So you will find all kinds of silos within an organization. And therefore, all that information, all the data is not centralized. That's number one. There's no centralized data platform. And then secondly, then there is no engine that can look at the full customer view based on all the knowledge that we know about customer. And because of that, we are not actually able to deliver that experience because at any one point, we don't have a full view of the customer based on everything we know about them, their history, their preferences, their current situation, and a lot of other things.
Okay. I mean, David, where can this really deliver? What sort of products work well with hyper-personalization? I mean, I'm thinking of stuff like, mortgage lending. Instead of it being a yes or no decision, I mean, should not the rate vary precisely according to the financial stability of the person or individual loans? I mean, where does hyper-personalization really pay off?
Right. So basically, customer experience becomes much better. You can sell the adequate things. And in banking, selling the adequate things to the adequate entities, people, corporations, micro enterprises, and so on, means less risk and more return, everything unchanged. So let's look at some examples. You picked mortgage lending. Let's begin with that. So you go around, I'm talking about a real bank, and this solution is implemented. You go around, you open this mortgage lending app of this specific bank, you point to specific pieces of real estate, and based on geolocation and real estate market analysis, the system gives you a price estimate of the real estate of your interest and a hypothetic mortgage offer, a sort of pre-approved but not finally approved mortgage offer. And it's amazing because residential real estate is about emotions, about love, not professional analysis. So when you see the different prices, you can better imagine the situation. Okay, but this was an active product, this was lending, this was credit. Let's move to the other side of the balance sheet, a passive product, okay? Same sort of thing, geolocation, hyper-personalization. So within the same framework, we are moving to the other side of the balance sheet. And what do we see there? Geolocation specific wealth management offers, okay? You travel to a country of your choice. Let's say you travel to Romania. I'm picking a random country. And your bank sees that you are there and they start to offer you assets, wealth management solutions, ideas, asset analysis, how to invest your money there. And then I move on. Transactions, okay? These were the two sides of the balance sheet. Let's move in between sort of transactions. You know what happens before you travel to Romania? before you travel to Romania, but you already purchased your flight ticket using your credit card issued by one specific bank, you know what happens? They offer you to exchange 500 euros or British pounds worth of money automatically to the local currency, Romanian lei, at the best exchange rate retrospectively within the 10 days upcoming to your trip. Do you get it? And things like this. And I can go on and on and on. By the way, when you purchase your flight, you immediately get a tailor-made travel insurance offer. And I can go on and on and on. Now, some of these are working, but yes, banks and bankers and even regulators have a difficult time going ahead. Complexity, compliance, strategic misunderstanding. Many banks are sort of strategically paralyzed. They can earn good money in the short run and in the mid run, but it would take extreme strategic determination to become future-proof in terms of the long-term future. So many banks are sort of sleepwalking, playing sort of a safety game. And what we, I think together with Dr. Emmanuel, what we want is to wake them up.
Amazing. Emmanuel, give me some examples also. I mean, are we talking, I'm in two minds about what we're talking about here. Sometimes it'll be the bank hyper-personalizing their own products, but sometimes it'll be upselling and cross-selling. So for example, I have a Monzo current account, and Monzo app provides me with what appear to be semi-tailor-made extra offers. For example, I don't know, discount at Coventry City Football Club, which is geolocated. It's not too far away from where I live in England. I've never actually been there. And there are stuff like Harvey Nichols department store in London. Well, I've never been there to my knowledge. So it seems quite scattergun. So Emmanuel, what do you think? What are the best applications here? Is it about the bank tailoring its own products, as David was saying, but is it about upselling and cross-selling to try and create stickiness?
So it has to be both. But let's start with the bank actually tailoring or customizing its products to its customers. So I have another example related to what David just mentioned. So here is a bank which is using, again, I think similar to what you said, Charles. So they're using location, they're using your spending patterns, and they're using your transaction history. So if you are close to one of their partners, they could say, hey, Charles, we know that you like this kind of product, and there's a 10% discount just right next to you. So this is, again, hyper-personalization, but this is the bank actually just doing it. Its products, but also together with its partners. So that's one way of doing it. Another interesting part is now when you're looking at a bank which is now creating an ecosystem where you have also partners, and within that ecosystem, one customer can actually have different products from different partners. So you're kind of personalizing bundling products together for one person, but not only for the same for one bank, but for different banks, but not just even banks. It could be other organizations as well, such like you said, such as a football club, for example, or it could just be maybe a cinema. So they bring all that together, and then it becomes a personalized product because it's specific just to you, but the product is not just from your bank, it's from different banks.
I'll ask you both about the potential downside here, because there's a theory in marketing, and I'll credit someone like Mark Ritson, who's a columnist for Marketing Week in the UK. He's probably the single most famous writer on marketing in the UK, who says if you want to build a community, it helps to build it around standard products. That Guinness just runs one ad for everybody. So when they buy Guinness, they feel a part of a community, and that consumers can feel a little creeped out by personalization. I'm thinking of Facebook, where geolocation can be ultra precise. I remember seeing a guy prank his housemate by tailoring ads to people within his exact age range, within the shortest possible distance, which I don't know, must have been quarter of a mile or something like that. So in other words, he could deliver tailor-made ads only to his flatmate. related to silly conversations they'd been having just to try and freak him out, and it worked. Is there a sense, I mean, David, that there's a merit not for being hyper-personalized? That sometimes giving people lots of special offers can backfire. I mean, I've looked at that Monzo list of offers and thought, they don't know me at all. These things are completely random. They're almost all completely inappropriate. I'm sifting through a list of garbage. It looks a little bit tawdry, actually. What are the downsides of hyper-personalization?
Yes, it's a very, very good question, actually. So traditional marketing can have downsides as well. To pick another marketing giant, let's pick David Ogilvy. David Ogilvy is research UK marketing giant. David Ogilvy's long time, amazing, unique, super intelligent research shows that many of the major above the line traditional high budget marketing campaigns of banks are actually counterproductive. Everything unchanged. We spent a lot on making our bank's marketing image less shining. Right. Anyway, new type of marketing can also be productive or less productive. That's why we are here. So basically, Dr. Emmanuel scored current hyper-personalization standing on a scale from 1 to 5 to something like 3. My score is -1. And maybe I am very critical here, but it's -1 exactly because of your type of example, Charles. Probably we are in the negative territory in terms of hyper-personalization, but actually banks which are aiming for a long-term future will have to learn to unlock this value from their data wealth, which you pointed out very, very beautifully. Banks used to be the kings of data. Current kings of data are technology giants, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent, and the others. So banks are now in the second place, but still they are sitting on gold. They are sitting on diamond. They just need to learn to unlock it, monetize it in a positive, not in a negative way. So basically, the first step is to get your data right. As a bank, many banks are battling IT spaghetti 2000, literally. Some banks have 2000 different IT systems interconnected. So first, they have to create order inside, and then they can unlock the value from the data. By the way, artificial intelligence happens to be something which I am very critical of, but in hyper-personalization, I believe in it.
Okay, we'll go to technology just in a minute. And yeah, the spaghetti systems is a subject we've touched on a lot. I recall a CTO of HSBC saying they have more than around 7,000 applications running on 50 cores. So yeah, it's a great theme. But Emmanuel, I just want to just dig into this just a tiny bit more about the potential negative sides of hyper-personalization. Whether you think there are any, whether I'm just fussing over nonsense, or whether there are downsides to tailoring and getting it wrong or creeping the customer out.
So yeah, so those two things that you just mentioned, right? So if you're gonna customize something specifically for me, think of a birthday present, right? If you're gonna give me a birthday present, it has to be highly, highly personalized. You get it wrong, I'll be so not happy. I'll probably be pissed off. So there is that risk with hyper-personalization that if you get it wrong, in some cases, there's been research that actually shows that customers are getting frustrated or annoyed by so-called hyper-personalized products which are wrong. So there is that risk of getting it wrong, but it can also be creepy, right? So if I get, I just had a baby and then I get a message, oh, congratulations for the baby, and I haven't told anybody yet. It's like, hey, hang on, what's going on here? Is it coming too much? So from that aspect, it can be there can be some negative impact on it. But however, if I go back to the examples that you were giving, where you need a standard product like Guinness, I think that's fine. But if we really look at the definition of hyper-personalization, remember I talked about the situation, the current situation, right? So if I like Guinness, maybe one day I'll come in and I don't really feel like drinking. And if you cannot read that, if you don't understand that, if you don't know that I've stopped drinking and you still offer me a Guinness, then it's supposed to be a hyper-personalized product to me, right? But it's not because I stopped drinking. So hyper-personalization includes just more than offers and sales, right? We talk about history and understanding the customer at their current situation, right? And their context at the time. So if you bring all that together, yes, okay to have standard products, but let's know the customer a little bit more. Let's have the full view of the customer so that we can hyper-personalize not just the sales, but the experience as well.
There's also a case that there's potential for discrimination here. That if, applying for, say, I don't know, backpackers travel insurance, traditionally associated with sort of multi-entry travel around Europe, that if the bank is able to know precisely your income and think, well, he earns healthy six figures, let's bump up the price a little. Or someone comes from a part of a city where there's maybe high crime, they can be penalized. And if the numbers are randomly varying, if someone buys and they think, well, my friend bought that and I paid twice as much, I seem to be hyper personalized and getting penalized for it, either because I'm, coming from an unusual background or I'm particularly wealthy. Is that, Emmanuel, what do you think? Also that danger that people start to become aware that
that's you picked up
fairly
that.
being taken into account.
Yeah, you picked that very, very well. So when you're talking, I was thinking about what drives emotions in banking. It's trust, right? Financial security, financial stability, and trust and transparency. And those are the things that really drive customer experience in the banking industry. So if banks try to be smart or insurance companies try to be smart and maybe use that kind of intelligence that you just described now, of course, then they will lose on the trust and transparency and financial security and stability. So on one hand, they might see themselves as being smart or clever, but on the other hand, I think in the long term, they'll actually lose because they'll lose that trust and transparency with customers. So that's my view on that.
It's true. One little aspect of this I'd like to throw in is the idea that I enjoy as a customer, that I think my bank is trying, even if it doesn't get it right. I like the fact that Monzo is experimental and it's trying to give me offers it thinks are relevant. And I have to opt in and click, yes, that's the offer I would like. And it just makes me think, they're not getting it right. But I used to bank with NatWest. They don't try at all. They're way behind the curve. I mean, they're notoriously neglectful. Their app certainly was absolute garbage. So I like the fact, I appreciate the fact there's a stickiness to it. You look at Revolut, they're experimenting all the time. They don't get it right all the time. But again, David, I can see you nodding. That customers, with a little bit of communication, with the ethos. I mean, Monzo is very good at communicating. Under Tom Blomfield was just wonderful at saying, here's what we're going to try. Revolut is saying, look, we think you might, enjoy this extra feature, and if not, we'll pull it. And that resonates with the customers. So there's also that, David, that it's just it builds a relationship with a bank that really non-communicative organizations such as NatWest just fail on.
Right. I mean, think about the gap between NatWest and Monzo in terms of these muscles and capabilities and sort of genes. But then there is Starling Bank, where you can pick your partners, your specialized providers within their internal selection of sort of internal app store. So you can hyper-personalize the bank, the plain vanilla core product for yourself. And you mentioned Tom Blomfield. I will mention Anne Boden. She also has her own genius model, or sort of Starling Bank's own genius model of hyper-personalization through an API infrastructure. Getting back to Guinness. So the product itself is uniform. That's absolutely okay, because once you buy a six-pack of Guinness, your payments-based advertisements can come into your mobile banking app. JP Morgan is now experimenting with it in the United States with active customer consent. And then you get an advertisement for fridge, recipes using Guinness, and so on. And also, once you have a nice dinner somewhere, geolocational offers will tell you which nearby pub has a current discount on a pint of Guinness. And I can go on and on and on. Then there are the biometric sensors, the entire intertwining of health and wealth, based on your mood, based on your emotional status, based on your biometric blood pressure, respiration, circulation, body temperature, outside temperature, based on all of this data, you can get individualized offer. Maybe it's better to drink a whiskey or an orange juice. And that is where hyper-personalization reaches its peak, but there is a level even beyond that, and that is agentic artificial intelligence.
Okay, this is a great subject. Okay, we've covered the downsides. Now, I happen to be a believer in hyper-personalization. I think, as you say, it's, when you've got serious AI at work, and we do need to connect bank accounts here. I've noticed if you can't just have, open banking is going to be a bit of a core here because the bank does need to see your overall picture. But Emmanuel, just give us the fantasy here. We've seen how AI has just exploded, generative AI. Tailor-made robo-banking is still pretty backward. I mean, a lot of banks, I once had an account with Nutmeg, online investment thing. You just click between 1 and 10 risk options. It was just so crude. It really didn't do the concept justice whatsoever. What I'd love to see is sort of everyone having their own bespoke wealth advisor, everyone having their bespoke insurance advisor. I mean, insurance, God help us all, remains completely opaque. I mean, car insurance is absolutely impossible to figure out why one quote is 10 times the price of another. Emmanuel, flesh it out for us. Where are we headed with this? Are we headed for truly bespoke, one person at a time, sophisticated financial advice for everybody?
So yes, I think we'll get there. But before I answer that, Charles, I just wanted to pick on your previous point, right? So my favorite statement for the past year is that don't try to be good and correct all the time. Try to be less wrong with time. So if we take Monzo Starlink, they're trying, they're getting it wrong, but they will try to be wrong with time. Whereas if you go back to, I'm not sure if it was NatWest who said they're not trying at all.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the challenges that banks have is like, where do we start? Like everything is we've got legacy systems, they're all disconnected. Where do we start, right? So they don't start. And the advice is no, just start experimenting. Open up the data and let the different functions use data which belong to other functions, and then use that for your analysis and then make decisions. And slowly start to experiment with AI, which is specific to your industry or to your function, and keep experimenting. And then with time, you start getting things right. So that's one of the advices that I give, just try to experiment, and then you get less wrong with time. Now, to your question, are we going to get there? And I think we will. And that's exactly where AI comes in, right? So in general, AI is supposed to be, faster and smarter, right? If you got the right inputs. AI is supposed to be, working 24/7. AI is supposed to do all those repetitive, boring jobs. And in many ways, in terms of performance, AI can perform a lot faster and better than human beings. And with that information, now if we combine that with data, so let's take an organization which really has a data culture, right? Where everyone is putting data together in the same place. And then we have this AI brain. Now look, you're looking at a brain which is 360 degrees smarter than human beings with all the information of a customer everywhere. I don't see how that cannot provide us exactly what you're talking about. A really personalized, wealth management system based on good data culture, decentralized data platform, AI, and then we can just put some human beings somewhere out there for empathy and bringing a human touch. But yes, I think we will get there in the end.
Okay, I can tell you right now, there's not a single organization I regard as sophisticated enough or trustworthy enough to scan all my bank accounts and provide me with truly reliable advice. I mean, if I'm picking, for example, a travel insurance package, who's going to advise me? Well, I can't talk to Monzo. The customer service representative wouldn't have the faintest idea what I'm talking about. NatWest, not Vanguard, not. I mean, I need to be genuinely banking with a sophisticated private bank to get that, and then it would be a one-to-one personalized. It's one-to-one because if I'm with Coots or Adam and Co. So for an ordinary consumer, it just doesn't exist yet. But so David, yeah, just give us again the fantasy. What should banks be aiming for? And also tell me, who should be doing this? Is it the CEO's job, the marketing jobs, the data team's job? I mean, because anyone could take ownership over this. Who do you think can make this vision of hyper-personalization happen?
Right. So basically, what I see is that many banks are successful in the short term without a very clear strategy. Now, strategy is clearly the responsibility of the CEO, obviously in cooperation with the board, shareholders, and so on, but it's a CEO responsibility. That's the crown of a CEO, to drive and define and implement and execute strategy, strategic vision. And what I see is that a surprisingly high number of otherwise successful banks don't have an explicitly communicated, well-known, organization-wide, winning, future-looking strategy. Some do. Some do. Those which do have a clear strategy, there you have to create a data strategy, a customer experience strategy, and then the general corporate strategy, along with data strategy, marketing strategy, customer experience strategy, customer journeys, sort of define the personalization tactics. Basically, these tactical elements must be defined by the strategic cornerstones, but for that, the strategic cornerstones must be in place. So banks, it's an interesting statement, but I believe in it. Many banks actually have to become strategically better to be able to systematically and consciously display excellence on tactical issues. By the way, going back to pricing, just for a sentence, a sideline, you have mentioned pricing ambiguities, ethical questions, and so on. Actually, there is a beautiful experiment, a pilot project with prior customer consent. Some banks are experimenting how they can detect when a client is spending significant time near or inside the branch of a competitor. And in that case, to offer better interests on savings and loans and lower fees, sort of to prevent opening up an account at another bank. So the pricing can be used in a customer-friendly manner as well. And one more piece of remark. So basically, customer service in a hyper-personalized way, you are right, that would be the top of private banking. You need to have 100 million, 200 million pounds of liquid personal assets under management in order to be able to pay, sort of, from your personal margin, advisors. But then it's, top quality advisors. But then it's better to have a family office, which many wealthy families do have. But then it's better to have a single family office. Then it's better to own a bank than to be simply a client of a bank, and so on. So there are many, many levels. But all of this, the democratization of top quality customer service is underway. But the trick is to turn it all around. Agentic AI will learn about all these insurance typologies instead of you, but representing you. Do you get it? So we turn the customer service around. Your personal agentic AI, your personal AI agent will learn these things for you.
That's a great vision. And Emmanuel, just to finish up, just tell us about the rewards for banks that get this right, both in terms of creating happier customers, but also maybe pricing things correctly and avoiding defaults and making sure that each customer is given the kind of products that they deserve. What are the rewards for banks that get this right?
Oh, so I have seen rewards of 40% engagement. I have seen customers who actually now prefer to be in their bank's app than to be on social media, which is amazing. It's like, wow, this is great news. And of course, cross-selling and upselling, that's gonna go above the roof, but also that deep connection with the customer, right? When the bank really knows me, I feel valued, I feel known, and I have that deep connection. That's what really drives loyalty, right? It's not just me being satisfied with one transaction. It's really having that deep connection with the bank, only because they know me and I know them and I can trust them. So the results from customer experience to revenue engagement, for those who have done it well, the results are impressive.
Wow. David, just to end up for you, what are the rewards here? As we said, very few people are doing hyper-personalization particularly skillfully, but for those that really nail it, what's the difference it's going to make to the bank or the fintech?
Right. I mean, in banking, there is an additional sort of multiplicative, sort of extra reward for getting personalization right, and that is risk. Banks are leveraged, therefore the results, the stability, the profitability, or the lack of that of banks is very sensitive to incorporating risk as a factor into selling assets as well as liabilities. So when you start to sell the right things to the right target group, everything unchanged, your risk level goes down. Yeah. And with 20 times or 10 times or 8 times leverage on your balance sheet, banks are leveraged organizations, there is a huge reward for reducing risks, everything unchanged. So you cannot only build a more profitable bank by selling more, but you can build a safer bank, and that's the key word for many bankers around the world. You can build an everything unchanged, lower risk level bank by selling the right things to the right target groups. And that is a big, big, big thing. By the way, hyper-personalization in many sense is a tactical thing. But in order to get it right, in order to be able to do that, you have to be strategically excellent, strategically right. So it's a very, very good sort of exercise, sort of training, sort of thermometer. If you are starting to get it right, that means you are strategically there. So watch Monzo when they are starting to get it right, and let Tom Blomfield know that they are starting to get it right, because he will
He's moved on.
strategically proud.
I think it's a Y Combinator now, but yeah, that's such a good subject. I mean, I'm a huge believer. There are clearly problems with it. And I think we fleshed out just some of the reasons why banks could be a little reluctant, because you've really got to get this right, because getting it wrong kind of erode trust a little bit. But they have great vision of the future. And Emmanuel, so good to have you on FinTech Talk with us. And I very much hope you'll come on again.
Thank you.
I hope that was instructive for everybody. Certainly, I start off with a pretty hazy notion of hyper-personalization. I feel as though the resolution has been sharpened. So from the panelists and from myself and from Blandina and the production team, thank you so much for joining us on FinTech Talk.